Welcome to this video on the Amazing Scientists educational resource. Today we are going to quickly go through how the poster can be used to discuss issues of gender in science. There is a movement currently in education to increase the engagement of girls and women in STEM subjects and careers. The New South Wales Department of Industry indicates that women are less likely than men to be interested in and be confident in STEM. Twice as many male students as female students consider STEM careers, and men are almost 3 times as likely as women to complete STEM studies at a tertiary level. There are plenty of reasons for wanting more women to work in scientific fields. Aside from benefiting the field from increased diversity and new perspectives, the inclusion of women in scientific studies is critical for overcoming common bias practices. An important example being that the vast majority of new drugs are tested on men first and only then tested on women later if the tests on men were first successful. The Amazing Scientist poster has been designed to spark exploration of key ideas regarding gender in science, particularly feminist ideas of degendering, barriers, and intersectionality. Perhaps the most obvious idea this resource explores is the idea of degendering. In this case, degendering our concept of science and what it means to be a scientist. Degendering is hotly debated in feminist theory. Theorists have alternately posited that degendering is an essential step towards equity and that gender is an important part of identity that should not be negated, and everything in between. The purpose of this poster is not necessarily to answer these questions, but to facilitate robust guided discussion on these topics. Amazing scientists, and then only shows female scientists. This challenges gender norms that we have about scientists and prompts students to interrogate their preconceptions of gender in science. One question for the class might be, is it right that this poster should be titled Amazing Scientists and only feature women? This should be accompanied by a review of other resources, perhaps ones that are even in the classroom. How many of them feature only men? And how many of those have gendered titles? Other areas for discussion are the barriers faced by women in scientific fields. A good place to start this discussion is noting that the poster acknowledges achievements along the lines of First Woman Too. You can ask students why this kind of achievement is noteworthy and what women might have had to overcome in terms of systemic prejudice and power imbalances in order to attain these positions or prizes. For older students, it might even be appropriate to consider that First Man Too is often used synonymously with First Person Too, as in First Man on the Moon, and identify the male-dominant discourse in discovery and exploration. Given that this poster's subtitle is From Around the World, there is also the opportunity for teachers to discuss intersectionality. Intersectionality is a framework in feminist theory which acknowledges that the differences in race, culture, socioeconomic background, age, and more intersect with gender to create unique modes of discrimination. Classes can discuss this through the lens of the featured scientists. For example, have some of these scientists experienced unique barriers as a result of their personal backgrounds? As a part of the discussion on gender, it is valuable to include a conversation on gender diversity, both the importance of inclusion and the fact that gender is increasingly being considered a spectrum rather than a binary set of opposing positions. Ultimately, the poster has one relatively straightforward purpose: to motivate female students to study science through aspirational role models. Research has shown that seeing role models with common traits like gender is pivotal for student engagement. Seeing female role models is key to helping young women open up the space of opportunity and demystify stereotypes that science or mathematics is somehow for boys. It is worth noting that this poster could be adapted to be used across numerous KLAs. The scientific information in this poster is simply contextual background, so given the historically male-biased trends in almost all academia, a similar resource could be generated to the same effect simply by listing it and describing female academics, but without gendering the resource as explicitly female. While this poster could be incorporated into just a single lesson, for a deeper dive, students could be given a research task to identify other female scientists and discuss both their contribution to science and the kinds of barriers they might have experienced. A prime example might be Rosalind Franklin, pictured here, whose enormous contribution to genetics was not acknowledged even as her colleagues were awarded Nobel Prizes. Hopefully this has illuminated some of the possibilities for how the Amazing Scientists poster resource can be used to facilitate discussion on gender issues in science, and if nothing else, possibly inspire some budding scientists in the class to dream of an impactful STEM career. Happy teaching.